Hello everybody, today I'm going to talk about the investment case for silver. That's right, element 47 on the periodic table. Its code is AG. Now, about 836 million ounces or 26 tonnes of silver was actually mined in 2019. 169 million ounces or about 5,000 tonnes of silver was recycled. So all up, about 31,000 tonnes of silver was available as supply for 2019. Now, over 51% or 16,000 tonnes was used for industrial processes, which includes over 3,000 tonnes used in solar PVs or solar photovoltaic cells, solar panels. And you can see a pie chart here that just shows where all the demand for silver is used over 2019. So the number one use of silver is in electronics. Silver's unsurpassed thermal and electrical conductivity among metals means it cannot easily be replaced by less expensive materials. For example, small quantities of silver are used as contacts in basically every electrical switch. Join the contacts and the switch is on. Separate them and the switch is off. Whether turning on a bedroom light using a conventional switch or turning on your microwave using a membrane switch, the result is the same. The current can pass through only when the contacts are joined. Cars are full of contacts that control electronic features, and so are consumer appliances. Industrial strength switches also use silver too. For example, your plasma television set may rely on silver for more than just the on and off switch. If it contains a silver electrode aimed at giving a higher image quality, the light emitting diodes, the LED, will be using silver, and that's what's there to produce the low level and very efficient lighting from your TV set. Another use of industrial silver is what they call silver paste. This has obviously many uses. A common one is that you would know about is, or you should know about, is the rear defrost of many cars. You know, those lines that you see at the back of your car. In electronics, certain circuit paths, as well as passive components, rely on silver paste. It's one of the fastest growing uses. Of course, is within solar PVs. The silver paste contacts printed onto photovoltaic cells capture and help carry the electrical current. And this current is produced when the energy from the sun impacts the semiconducting layers of the solar cell. And photovoltaic cells are naturally one of the fastest growing uses of silver. In fact, about 20 grams of silver is used in each solar panel manufactured. So that alone adds up to a lot of silver. And silver's shine, or its reflectivity, gives it another role also in solar energy. It reflects solar energy onto those huge collectors that use molten salts to generate electricity. In other words, when you see those fields and they're surrounded by those mirrors are obviously formed because the function of silver is the coating. So they're used as well. There's also medical uses for silver. Some people may or may not know this. Silver exhibits a unique property of penetrating bacteria and their cell walls, whilst at the same time it does not hurt humans or other mammals, and it destroys the ability of the microbe to reproduce. And this allows, silver ions are therefore used in biocides, which is becoming more and more important due to the overuse of chemical antibiotics, in fighting bacterial infections. So that's a use of it there, and it's really starting to become a cutting-edge material of the future. And silver has the highest thermal and electrical conductivity of all metals. Now, I'll just quickly run through some of the other uses of silver, where the demand comes from. Photography has been one of the primary industrial uses of silver, but until the recent rise of digital media, its demand is steadily declining. Traditional film relies on the light sensitivity of silver halidide crystals, I think they're called, that are presented in the film. And when the film is exposed to light, the silver halidide crystals change to record a lantient image that can be developed, therefore, into a photograph. The accuracy of this process makes it useful for non-digital consumer photography, film, and obviously in X-rays. But that is an area where it is seeing decline of the use. Jewelry and silverware are two traditional users of silver. Jewelry is around about 6,250 tonnes last year, and silver was about 1,860 tonnes, so they're decent amounts being used. Sterling silver, which is basically used in jewelry, because silver itself is a softer metal, so in order to make it a bit stronger, sterling silver is fabricated, which is basically 92.5% silver mixed with 7.5% copper. And silver, though, even though it does resist oxidization and corrosion, it can still tarnish. This here that I'm holding up, a little bit hard to see, I know, but that's a 10 gram 50 cent piece made out of silver. You can see it looks a bit tarnished and not as shiny, whereas here's a little bit of jewelry. That's sterling silver, 92.5% silver, 7.5% copper, and you can see how shiny that looks as well. As silver has traditionally served with gold as the metal to be used in a lot of coins. It's a precious metal, silver, but it's also a big time industrial metal. In fact, it's probably known more to be a commodity used for industry purposes than, for its precious metal status. But it's still used as a store of wealth, and people can accumulate that wealth in the form of silver coins, like I've just shown you there, or they can invest in investment grade silver bullion bars. The fact that silver doesn't corrode is very, very important, and it's also got a very, very high melting temperature. I recall it being about 960 degrees Celsius, so it can last. And it's got a good sense of malleability, meaning it can be knocked into all sorts of shapes and sizes as well. It is in greater abundance in the earth than gold, hence why there's a natural price change. That's pretty self-evident. But the push for silver is now coming more and more into the renewable space. So touching back, to solar PV, that's hugely important, for future silver demand. There was a recent report from the World Bank titled Minerals for Climate Action, the Mineral Intensity of the Clean Energy Transition. And that in that report, it forecast that by 2050, 30 years away, the consumption of silver in the energy technologies could grow dramatically, reaching a level equivalent to more than 50% of total silver demand. And the large proportion of any non-battery metal that's noted in terms of metals. What I mean by there's other metals, of course, like lithium and cobalt, but that's in the battery space. And more than 95% of this increase is due to the expansion of solar PV power generation. So I've now got this table here that you can see all the various minerals, and the second column just states their annual production in thousands of tons, and then the middle column, the 2050 projected annual demand from energy, what they expect it to be, and then the final columns is just the percentage increase. And you can see I've highlighted silver, which is third from the bottom on the table. Annual production, that's what's mined, just ignoring what's recycled, was 27,000 tons. By 2050, it's of the view that 15,000 tons will be used exclusively in solar. So that's pretty big, because you've got to remember silver as it stands right now is around 51% in industry, of which 10% of that total figure in the industry, of its total use, is currently silver. So it's currently 10% of silver is used in solar. According to this report, it's going to jump to over 50 But then you've still got the normal demand for normal electronics. You know, if you've got your iPhones, your computers, and cars. Not to mention, it's still going to be used in jewelry and you know, and silverware. And of course, there's a good percentage that's used for physical investment. So all up, the demand for silver is going to be increasing. And that's why I think over the long term, people should be considering owning a bit of silver. So the case for the price of silver to increase in the medium long term is certainly there. Now, sure, the big users of silver, you know, along with their pals and the investments banks, will do their absolute best to ensure the price of silver doesn't rise up like Bitcoin. In other words, it's not going to rapidly rise up tomorrow. Because the silver market, after all, is one of the most highly manipulated paper markets in the world. But at some point, just again, thinking back to that table, when demand really does begin to outstrip actual supply, the price must go up. And as the price goes up, the physical demand will also increase, which places more upside pressure on silver. And this is something I believe will happen over the medium and long term, with some short-term spikes and corrections along the way. And I'll just bring up here just an example of the American Eagle silver 1 ounce coin. A couple of days back, it spiked to be worth more than futures contracts. That's because people were just piling into the physical over buying, say, what's listed in the markets. So that is actually starting to happen right now. And should the premium of physical silver stay elevated above, you know, paper silver, then sooner or later those trying to suppress the silver market will find things will pretty much end, you know, badly for them. Simply put, the establishment can print all the silver paper it wants, but when there's no physical supply, price can only go one way, and that's up. So what's the best way to trade silver? Well, if you want to own silver outright, just find and get in touch with your local gold and silver coin bullion dealer. These dealers will be able to sell you silver coins like this. I think these go for like $20, and bullion bars. And if you buy and take, you know, physical delivery, you're actually taking silver out of the market and technically, in theory, reducing the supply of silver. Another way to go to be invested into silver is to trade it via the ASX, and there is a very liquid exchange traded fund called the ETP MAG, which trades silver in Aussie dollar terms. So that's a very easy way to get yourself set there, because you've got the liquidity, easy to check in and easy to check out. And another way to own silver is via owning, you know, silver mining shares. One such example is the Silver Mines Limited company, or their code, ASX code is SVL. But keep in mind, most of silver comes out as a byproduct of mining copper, lead, zinc, and gold. Anyway, that's the investment case for why I think you should consider silver in your portfolio. I think it's definitely worth considering there. If you've liked the video, please ensure you hit the like button. Feel free to send it out to all your family and friends. And until next time, we'll catch you later. See ya.